Hi everyone, Dave here at East Rosebud Fly and Tackle in Billings, Montana. Today I'm going to tie a Klinkhammer style fly for you. These are mayflies. Klinkhammers can also be tied as midges, which is what I mostly see, but I decided by adding a tail I can make this into a mayfly, a merger. As you know, as the mayflies start to merge, the nymphs come from the bottom, come up towards the meniscus, and it's typical for them to have a thorax up attitude. This is a Klinkhammer hook. So as their thorax is pushing up against the meniscus to try to split the exoskeleton and emerge, the abdomen's hanging down underneath, and it's a very natural position for the fly. Look at this versus a standard parachute dry fly, which has a horizontal attitude on the water. The parachute is a good fly to use once they start hatching. The Klinkhammer is an excellent fly to use right at the beginning of the hatch when the fish are more concentrating on the emergers than they are the actual duns themselves. So this is tied with a turkey flat. I'm going to use some McFlylon for the post for this one just to show you some variations. So this is a Daiichi number 1160 Klinkhammer. This is a size 14. I'm using light Cahill Vivus 80 thread, although tan would work just as well. As you can see, I have this eye down, so I have access to the butt of the hook. I'm going to start the thread at about the 75% point and wrap a nice smooth thread base. And we want to get to the bottom of the curve of this hook, which will be right above the hook barb. You can use a lot of different things for the tail. You can use soft hackle. I'm going to use some pheasant tail here, ring neck cock pheasant tail. Just going to peel off just a few fibers. And if you peel them from the stem, it helps to keep them together. And we want a tail that's about half a hook shank in length. Take a couple of soft wraps here, get it on top of the hook shank, then I can adjust my tail if I need to. That looks pretty good. And we'll go ahead and wrap over the tail material. This will help to start to build up our abdomen. Reorient this hook a little bit. Continue wrapping over it to about the 70% point. And then we'll go ahead and bring our thread forward to behind the eye and then back about an eye and a half. It's important for the attitude, the way this fly fishes, for the post to be on top of this curve. Now you can see this looks similar to a scud hook, but the shank of it behind the eye is much longer and much flatter than a typical scud hook. Now for material, I've used this before in other flies. This is simply light copper McFlylon. This is 1/3 of a strand that I've added a few strands of pearl crystal flash to. I'm going to go ahead and tighten my thread up here, spin it clockwise, and I only need about a 2-inch piece of post material, just enough to hang on to. Hold your post material in the middle, and it's important anytime you're building a post to keep your thread tight. Keep your materials on top of the hook. There's one firm wrap, a second one right on top of it. Now I'm simply going to swing this post a little bit towards me and sneak a wrap in going the other direction. So I've made an X wrap. Then I'm going to grab the two post sides and pull them hard. That helps to consolidate your thread wraps into the middle. And then I'm going to do a pair of X wraps, and while I'm doing this, consolidate these materials into each side of my wing. End up with my thread right in front of the far post. Now I'm going to post this, simply bringing all the fibers up, make sure you have them all, and I'm going to make 3 wraps counterclockwise around the base of this post right above the hook. Every time you come around, snug the thread up good. This really helps to stabilize your post, and a good stiff post is so much easier to work with. Now with some practice you can actually post the post and the hackle at the same time. Now, this is some dun grizzly hackle. I like it particularly for Callibaetis. It's a good color. And I'm simply going to strip off about half a hook shank length with a strip off with a few more fibers on the side that will be against the post first. The shiny side needs to be towards you when you tie this in. And make sure that the stem tip doesn't occlude the eye. Wrap it down good as you bring it back towards the post. Stand the hackle up and make a couple of oblique wraps of thread right around the base there. And that helps to keep that right up against the post. Now it's important that the inside, the dull side of the feather, stay against the post for us to wrap the hackle properly. And now again, counterclockwise, I'm going to start at the base and wrap the post and the feather up at the same time. And this is plenty of length right here. And then wrap back down the post, again going the same counterclockwise direction. Keep your thread wrap smooth and your hackle will wrap so much easier. When we get down to the base of the post, I make one conventional wrap in front to lock that down, and then I come behind. Now I'm going to thicken up this abdomen just a little bit with thread, but this is a lot of shank to wrap, even with a turkey biot. So you have to be careful that you don't overdo this, or you'll run out of biot before you get to the end of it. So I'm just going to use some thread wraps here. I flattened my thread, and I'm just going to thicken up the abdomen towards the post a little bit. Again, I'll flatten my thread for the final wrap down. Try to keep this smooth. And I'm going to stop about a thread wrap short of where I tied in the tails. Now what I'm using for the abdomen is a turkey biot dyed Callibaetis. I always like to dampen my biots before I use them. That helps to keep them from splitting on you. Now this is actually from the left wing of the bird, and I'm going to tie this in with that hard ridge at the back of each wrap, and this will really help make that ribbing stand out. The Callibaetis and the Baetis families are both in the swimmer classification of mayflies, and their gills are fairly prominent, so this helps to show that. So I'm just going to grab the tip of this biot on my side of the hook and wrap over it. Again, try to keep that smooth. And the reason that I pick the feather from the left wing is because I'm actually wrapping it against the curve, and it helps for that, that ribbing to stand out. Now this is just some extra thin, regular lacquer head cement. It helps to make the fly more durable. And you'll see as I start to wrap this, having that hard edge trailing keeps that portion much more visible. So we want to wrap these with touching wraps. Again, you don't want to make them too tight or you'll run out of material before you get to the post, but just cover the previous wrap, and hopefully you can see how well that ribbing stands out. Tie this right up to the post. A couple of soft thread wraps to collapse that biot around the hook shank, right at the back of the post. Don't clip off the excess. And we'll make a bit of a thorax here with some Callibaetis dubbing. This is from UV2. I like their dubbing. It's not a monochromatic dubbing. It has different blends of colors in it, much like a natural. We just need a little bit here. We need to dub it very thin. Take a few fibers at a time. This is a dry fly dubbing, so it's a very fine dubbing. And we'll just start off here with a couple of inches. And then we're doing an X-wrap around the base of the post, kind of hide our tie-off on our abdomen and to build up a little bit of bulk. We want to end with our thread right in front of the post and with about an inch of very, very finely dubbed thread remaining. This helps to trap the hackle against the post, and also when I do the final wraps up towards the head, then I won't have any bare thread showing. So when we wrap this, make sure that your hackle is clear of all the post materials and that the dull side is facing up. That way when we wrap it, the hackle fibers point up and they're not competing with each other and getting tangled with every wrap. So make your wraps, each wrap right below the previous one. Make sure that your hackle is down on your side, and we're going to bring our thread straight up and again counterclockwise wrap around the base of the post 3 times. That traps the hackle and also builds up our thorax. Then a couple of last wraps here right next to the head. You'll see how these hackle fibers stand up like an upside down parachute, and that makes the tie off so much easier than if the hackle were facing the other way. Also, as you whip finish, to make your whip finishes slow, you typically won't trap any hackle. I have here. So before you tighten your whip finish, just get your scissors point in here and lift those hackles back out of the way. And then you can tighten your whip finish. Then lastly, we'll clip off this little bit of hackle. I like to clip my post about the same height as what I've hackled. And then lastly, one more drop of very thin head cement right at the top of the hackle, and this will soak down into the post and also help secure the hackle. And one little more drop here where the thread wraps are. And there you have a Klinkhammer Callibaetis version. You can tie these in anything, PMDs, you can tie these for tricos. For midges, I would omit the tail. So it can be a good still water fly. It can also be a good stream fly when you have some Baetis or other bugs hatching. Give it a try. I think you'll find it to be a very, very effective pattern, particularly during the pre-hatch period. As always, thanks for joining. If you have any questions or comments, please let us know. See you next time.